It is, of course, the first hour on Tuesdays, which is Carrot Bark University, and we have our team here, Jim Deal and Pete Fedek. And Jim, you're only here for half an hour, so I want you to go through some of the things that, man the lifeboats, make it easy to do, like making your first cake and cooking class. How easy it is to get into carrot bars and the why. I mean, it's like, people see the economic indicators, don't they see how easy this is? You don't even need to get a fancy website. You just need a phone, maybe a computer, but really you just need a phone. If you have email and a computer, you can even send people links. Tell us your system and how you what I call tend your carrot bar garden. So you maintain contact with people. You're there to help them. In other words, you tend the garden to try to motivate them and get momentum going. Once you get momentum, people get really excited when they start to say, hey, look how much money I put into my carrot bars MasterCard in Germany, and I transferred it out and bought XYZ, or I bought gold, or whatever they did. I mean, it's amazing, isn't it?
I'm not sure we've got Jim here, but I'd be happy to comment on that as well. And, really, folks, there is no time like the present, and people can say what they want, and you've heard Dr. Bill rant about this information before, and it isn't just to fill up airtime. It really is. There's something happening in the world that we need to pay attention to, and the thing is that our part really doesn't need to be complicated. It can be very simple, but it does stand from the standpoint of wanting to help people out, and
right.
You have to start with a list. It doesn't need to be ultra refined or anything else. It certainly helps, but it doesn't have to be. But the biggest thing is to start. And to start, you have to make a list, and you have to have people to talk to. Right. And you don't need to do all the talking. You don't need to know everything there is to know. First things first. You just need to go out there and get busy making that list, or getting people in touch with your upline.
Right.
Let them do the talking. Let them build that anticipation and momentum, if you will, and just stay with it. And the thing is, if you start and if you continue, you stand a very, very solid chance of being very successful at this business. This is not lotions, potions, or pills, or any other concoctions, and I have absolutely nothing against nutraceuticals or pharmaceuticals or anything else that actually helps you and cures you. Right. But the point is, this is something that cures everybody, and it's something that's unavoidable. And if you have a garage, nobody's going to complain about having a garage full of gold. And so you're not going to. It's not like you're going to fail.
Yeah, that's pretty funny, isn't it? I think people, firstly, most people know that gold is great. It has been for thousands of years. In fact, the early Roman Empire started with gold, later debased it to copper, which, of course, is the start of the fall of the Roman Empire, because, of course, the copper cankers, as they say, it rusts. What happens with gold is and people don't understand the parameters of it. The reason why the price of gold has been suppressed for a long time is because the powers that be want to acquire as much gold at their lowest price they can, because they know it's real money. And when the currencies get devalued, which is the only way that the globalist bankers can actually, after they printed a lot of funny money, they can acquire gold at a low price, and then when the economy crashes, they've got the gold. Okay? So then the gold, of course, becomes very valuable. Same as silver. There's a ratio usually between gold and silver. The thing about gold-backed currency, which is carrot bars, there's a half a dozen other companies that sell gold by the gram. But they don't build a network. They don't give you a downline. They don't have points to infinity. They don't have all these other factors that allow you to actually, if you start building a network, you're going to start making a steady income. You not only have a steady income, you've got inflation protection, and you have a system where you don't need to put a big investment. You can start off with a bronze package and upgrade later if you want. I usually recommend people get at least a silver or gold, but if they do a bronze package, just buy a gram of gold a month, and if they just replicate into 2 people a month, and those 2 people each month double, I think in a year they have like over 1,000 people. I mean, that's pretty amazing, isn't it? If you just replicate yourself with your downline of 2 people a month, and those 2 people, left and right leg, get 2 people. In 1 year, you'll have 1,000 people, and I can estimate the income is going to be in 4 figures at least. So what that means is if you just spend, say, half an hour to an hour, 4 days a week, you will have in 12 weeks a downline that's significant. And with very little investment other than some time, and all you're doing is sharing. You're not even selling something. You're saying, it's almost like going to a banking window in a foreign country and say, well, we'll take your British pound sterling and I'll give you, say, French francs or euros. Okay, we're going to take a British pound sterling and give you euros. That's what you're doing. You're exchanging fractional reserve, funny money, printed on a printing press, with gold-backed money, with gold in the currency, 1/10 of a gram of gold in the currency notes, and gold in the cards, 1, 2.5, and 5 grams. And also the thing is, because it can be banked, you can actually do electronic banking. You can buy and sell worldwide because your gold is actually stored in a vault. And then each one of these little cards and money is, in a sense, a gold vault. So it's got the characteristics of the best factors of currency. It's better than Bitcoin. It's better than fractional reserve currency. It's better than anything. And if you start doing this, and let's say the currency gets devalued 20% this year, your Carrot Bars is not going to be devalued 20%. Its value is going to increase versus euro and dollars and other currencies. And if there's a catastrophic drop in the economy, or if you're in a third world country, or if you're in America and the currency gets devalued, or the economy just slows to a crawl, you've got a system where you still have downline, not only here in America, but worldwide. So I keep on trying to tell people, we'll help you. We'll be your trainer wheels. If you need help, and most people need like one call, and they say, you're kidding. All I do is I hit my, 3-way call button on my phone, play the sizzle call for 5 minutes, find out if they're interested. If they are, send them a video, make sure their fraud security department are on for their credit card, get them to buy a gram of gold in a package, let's say a bronze or silver, and just replicate with all the people downline. Find out if they have a list, go over the list, show them, explain to them why you're doing this and how you do it, and before you know it, you've got it done. It's just so silly and so simple. And you can do it with your phone. You can be in a cafe. You can be on your computer. You can be almost anywhere doing this business. You're not restricted even by being in America. You can be anywhere on the planet. Anywhere. Amazing.
That's right. It is amazing. It's amazing that it puts everybody in a level playing field. Anybody can be successful. They're willing to talk and open their mouth. Right,
exactly. So fill us in some of the things that you found are particularly characteristics that can motivate people and make them successful. What do you do, Pete? And I don't know if we have Jim back, because I know we had him, but we lost him on the line here earlier.
I missed that. Sorry.
Okay, I guess we're going to try to reconnect with him. So Pete, tell us what things you find motivate people most to make them successful. Take them from average to supernatural, let's say.
Well, the average person can easily come to the realization that they don't need to spend full time from day one to be successful at this. If you're willing to follow a plan and do that half an hour a day, and it may sound like it doesn't work, and it may not look like it after 1 week, but I assure you that's the road I was on. I've been involved personally in networking for many years, and I said I'd never do it again, as a matter of fact. But then Carrot Bars came along, and I felt so much different about the product.
Right. You're not really selling, you're sharing. Mm-hmm. And also, think of it this way. If your friends, your neighbors, and your colleagues had to face financial meltdown, wouldn't you want it rather that they have this insurance so they don't face the pain and suffering caused by it? Back in a moment. So, Pete, we're having some technical issues trying to get a hold of Jim, but we'll get him back on perhaps maybe in the next segment or next week. One of the things that I find most interesting is that is what I call problem identification, whether it's dealing with health issue, geopolitical. For example, one of the reasons why Trump was so successful, even though he's a kind of a new politician, he's been in business. Whenever you're successful at business or at medicine or whatever, you have to identify the problem. then you have to break down the steps for the solution, so simple that anyone, even a baby or someone that's a novice, can do it. And in fact, whether it's a successful exercise program or diet or a plan to do business or to franchise, if you're going to franchise, you have to make your franchise system so bulletproof that it's idiot-proof, as they say, that anybody can be successful in it. Now, the nice thing about Carrot Bars is they've actually thought about all these things, and it's interesting. They're in an environment in Germany which has tighter regulations for financial transactions and notifications and so on than any other country on earth, including America. Tighter than Britain, tighter than America, tighter than anywhere. And because of that environment, they've been very careful to structure it so that even if you don't buy a package, you can still make money, although you're not going to make near as much, if you just promote this to other people to do what you should be doing, which is to buy gold at least a gram a month, and to promote a downline network so you can actually get points. You need to get into the dual level system. You need to actually have a package. What we did personally last July is we purchased the VIP packages for myself, my wife, and my daughter, and gold packages for our sons and our staff. And what that meant is that they would have able to build a downline, and you have two legs. You have what we call a power leg, which is basically your immediate family, and you have the banking leg, their other side. Now, a good example was a gentleman who had trouble with Carrot Bar Carrot Bar Know Your Customer documents, and he was trying to put them all in one document rather than two. And for some reason or other, he got delayed and really got, some people get kind of stuck like a fly, stuck to fly paper. He got stuck at getting this done right, and he didn't contact us for a while. Then he kind of fell off the edge, probably got too busy. And then he got back and he was listening to the program. Oh, I should do this. And he went and logged into his own website, which he already had, because he'd already paid for his membership, but he didn't have his KYC documents up. And he realized, oh my gosh, I got like 47 people. And this is how many points. And he realized this is how much money is sitting waiting for me to build people on the other leg, and they'll deposit every Friday in my account. You got to be kidding. Why don't I do it? So then he calls me up in a panic. This was about 3 weeks ago. How do I get doing this? I said, we get your KYC done properly, and then you get rocking and rolling. If you need help to build your downline on your other leg, we're actually seeding through what we call automated. All of the people downlining, they're getting people that we place under them for our massive inflows from our Genesis Network show and our other YouTube and our live stream channel. And because they do that, we actually, in a sense, like a fire hose, spraying all these new people downline of us. So all of a sudden you can look at your list and say, oh my gosh, look at all these people that I never recruited. That, by the way, you can email and you can contact and you can start building on that leg. People that can be in anywhere. They can be in Germany, South America, Israel, whatever. And the downline is being built. All you have to do is build the other leg, because we're building one leg and you need to build the other leg. You need 50 points in one leg and 25 in the other, and you're going to cycle, it's called. So let's go over some of these technical details. This system is so miraculous because you keep points for infinity. If you decide to take 2 months off, I'm not going to do anything, I'm too busy, I'm going to go on vacation to the Galapagos Islands, you can actually take time off, or if someone, say, dies, they can pass it on to their family. Their family still has a network. That's cool, isn't it?
That's absolutely fantastic, isn't it?
So when Dan Geromo died, who was a major force within Carrot Bars, his wife and his family now have his downline. That's really cool. I mean, they've literally have an inheritable, expanding resource with an expanding downline and gold itself, physical gold, plus they have all that downline network. That's not going to go away. I mean, it's he's got. I think, how many people did he have downline of him? Something like, was it something like 104,000 or something people? It was
sounds about right.
Yeah, that was back last year. This is last year before I even started. It was 104,000. I'm sure it's continued even after his death and Christmas Eve. Mm-hmm. So what you want to know is, you can be sitting in a wheelchair. You can have recovering from an MS attack. You could be a grandmother, 90 years of age. You can be a kid, with your parents' acceptance, and you're 16, and you can do this. You could be a student working your tail off at an engineering degree or a teaching degree or nursing or medical. You can be, an active attorney or a movie producer. We have people of every color astrophysicists like Professor McCanney, mothers at home, taxi drivers, crane operators, everybody you can think of in every walk of life gets involved with the care bars. And they all can be successful. And we see some people like one of our guys, Keno, he runs an international exotic fruit stand in New York City. This guy's got business smarts. He's built a downline network right on Wall Street. I mean, he's got Wall Street people. One of them came up and said, well, I can't get involved with this, and my brother said it's no good. But then he gets contact from Keno who says, well, by the way, one of the senior members of the Bundestag in Germany and this big Hollywood producer are carrot bar big guys. I think, isn't it next week we have a big conference and dinner in Los Angeles at one of the big complexes there? Mm-hmm. The 9th, I think, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Now, April 8th and 9th.
April 9th. Now, what's amazing to me is how fast you can build this. Nutrimedical in Vancouver, Canada, in 1 year built a downline of almost 18,000 people. And now she didn't contact 18,000 people, but she mentored mentors to be mentoring. In other words, it's like replicating yourself and teaching other people to take care of your downline. Contact them, see how they're doing, support them, give them a call, motivate them, get momentum going. And I'm certain she's got, like, I don't know how many figure income she has, but she's now got a fixed income for life. She's set. She doesn't just have a pile of gold sitting in her garage or her bedroom or her safe. She literally has a gold-backed business. The other thing about the aspects of this is going to eventually be an alternative to physical cash, electronic cash, credit cards. It allows you to market because you meet it in your back office, can sign up to be a vendor. And, of course, we have K-Exchange, which is coming up with new updates. I think in the next month or so, K-Exchange is going to be announced after this April meeting. The major updates that they've been making are working toward basically making it a replacement for credit cards and cash. And it's not owned by a big bank. They can mess around with it and devalue it. This is pretty dramatic, isn't it?
That's one of the most dramatic things there is.
So, if you want to build a business, we're here for you. Your investment is a little bit of time, a little bit of sweat, not many dollars. How about one less latte per day will make you a carrot bar aficionado. Easy Jazz Rhythm of Steely Dan, and of course the one of their latest albums called The Last Mall. And if you actually listen to the words, if you want to get a crack up, you listen to The Last Mall, which is basically the last time you can go shopping at the mall. The last mall's coming. I don't know if it's this year before the elections or in the next few years, but depending on who gets elected, if they don't fix the economy, it will be a time for the Last Mall song to play from beginning to end, not just the bumper. Pete, so we are approaching what I call the Last Mall Day, aren't we? Where you get treats for the little ones and toys for the little buckaroos. The next day you're going to have to do for yourself because you're not going to be able to rely on regular resources like having ambulances and doctors and other things. You're going to realize if you don't have real money, which is gold or gold-backed currency, you're, as they say in the military, screwed and tattooed. So people say, oh, that can't happen. I said, well, my grandparents, I can remember, survived through the 1920s with the crash. And my grandfather was pretty innovative, so he managed to actually make quite a bit of money during that time on and off, and lost it too, because the economy was so unstable. But he managed to rebuild himself. The fact is, if you aren't quick on your feet and ready to adapt to this, you're going to be in big trouble. Even if you think you have a lot of resources, it's amazing how your pension funds, the value of your home, anything denominated in fractional reserve currency can go poof. In fact, they now have this policy called bailing in, and now it's called negative interest, which, I read the report and watched the video by Gerald Celente. He was kind of appalled. He said, I have to apologize. I was wrong. He's had a high batting average. He said, because I didn't know the extent of what global bankers would do to invent to keep the game going, despite the fact it should be over. It's almost like someone who's bleeding out, but they put enough blood in them they can still talk. But they're not yet up to the operating room to stop the bleeding, but there's enough blood in them they actually are still conscious, at least temporarily, maybe very temporary. Gerald Celente said what they did now, they have negative interest in some of the other little games they're playing, but these are very temporary things. the teetering situation in Europe, the teetering situation in the Middle East, the teetering U.S. economy with more industries leaving like Nabisco and Carrier. I get a kick out of Trump when he says, I'm going to assign a lot of others, my underlings, to handle all those other things, but Carrier, I'm going to make the phone call. This is the president. By the way, if you want to sell your Carrier air conditioners back into America, you're going to have a tariff. And, there's going to be lots of things that are going to make it so you might reconsider moving back to America. I don't care what state you move to. I think they were in Wisconsin, I think. But, people need to grasp this, that we need to be able to make things in America. We also need to have high tech in America. In fact, we often design things in Silicon Valley, and they build it in China, India, Malaysia, and elsewhere. Those jobs building things we need to have, whether it's building container ships, building high-speed rail cars, so we can have high-speed rail across our country. We have 90% of the patents in the world are American. Well, in a sense, Carrot Bars is invented by our European cousins, the Germans, and it is the best financial system, saving system you can get. It's better than actually having a lockbox. Pete, anything you can say in regards to that? Because I think, in a sense, it's like the old story, it's the economy is stupid. Why do you think Trump is doing well? He wants to make America great, which means he wants to let people have a job. He wants people to have a bank account. So 64% of Americans couldn't scrape $1,000 together to pay copay for Obamacare, a broken car, or air conditioning system, and you're in the deep south and it's going to be 104 degrees and high humidity. We have the middle class is what I call on life support right now. Now, if you want to get off life support, you need to have another income. But how many hours in a day are there of mixed jobs? Because Obamacare makes you have many people who've been working 20 years in a full-time job. Now they're working part-time at 2 jobs and they don't have benefits. Pretty crazy, isn't it?
So it really is. It's just downright crazy, and you're never going to get ahead just by having an additional McJob, if you will, because you're always just trading even up your time for your for capital, and this is Carrot Bars is one of the only ways that you have available to you where you can actually help people and actually leverage that into something that's growing. You can't do that with a linear income. You have to have an exponential income, and that is only available through something that's legitimate for the vast majority of people out there, and that is gold and silver, and precious metals for that matter. And Carrot Bars is probably one of the few ways there are that's available in 120 jurisdictions and counting at this point, for you to have an exponential income that can exceed the rise of inflation if you're good at it, if you keep working at it. And that's the only way that you're going to have to get ahead and stay ahead.
Right. Now, so one of the things I think is really important that people kind of grasp is how close things are to catastrophe. And before 1929, people didn't realize the parameters. What was happening is the big banks decided to pull in the markers because the little banks were too highly leveraged. What we have is the same thing with the derivatives market. When they took off the Glass-Steagall bill, which, by the way, some of the advisors for Cruz were the very people that actually created the crisis. They took off the limits and actually repealed the Glass-Steagall Act, which was put to contain and compartmentalize the banking system so they wouldn't gamble with our money on derivatives, which is ensuring transactions financially. And if you blow the economy up and you suck down the velocity of money and the velocity of credit, eventually the real economy dies. Well, for a while, you're making buco bucks, 20% markup on your money, but it's basically funny money. It's not creating anything of value, either innovating something or building something. And for a period of time, that worked. The people wanted to invest, say, hey, I can only make 2 or 3% by investing in an industry. I can make 20 or 25% by playing with the derivatives market. So some of the big money manipulators eventually, what it did is start to suck money out like a vampire out of the real economy. Now we're in a situation that is completely crazy. And I don't think people understand where this is all going, do they?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you got to do something. You have to take action. You can't just sit there and do nothing, because you're going to be part of the numbers that are going against you if you don't.
Right. Now, what do you think is going to happen this year? Because I predict 3 or 4 different parameters that are probably we call drivers for whatever's going to happen, not only in the election, but the economy. The first thing is, after San Bernardino, after Paris, and now after Brussels and Lahore, Pakistan, I expect to see major terrorism on American soil, and Obama will continue to try to apologize and browbeat us that we shouldn't segregate Muslims. Now, the problem is that the non-jihadist Muslims are too passive and beaten down to actually resist the 1 or 2% that are crazy, that want to do jihad. And it's like Bill Maher says, I mean, this guy's really liberal, but he said on on an interview with a Democratic congressman, why can't the Democrats put the 2 words together, radical Islam? Well, that's only one driver. Then we have, of course, the globalists have now leveraged the world economy to the point where they can't even make money on derivatives. And their only solution is to crash the world economy and start a war to distract people from the fact that everything's melted down. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're caught in that mess, and my grandfather knew people that jumped out in Chicago out of the 14th floor window, and it became what we call street pizza. What people don't understand is that for every 1% increase in the unemployment rate, which will go right through the ceiling, 42,000 Americans die. Did you know that? For every 1% increase in unemployment, 42,000 Americans die. That was in that big movie, The Big Short, and it's actually a statistic that's based on facts. So get involved with Carrot Bars. We'll be back in a minute if you have questions. 800-259. And welcome back. So, Pete, the basic system, I think, of Carrot Bars is this. We have lots of tools now. We have Carrot Group Team. We have the Sizzle Call numbers. We've got, teaching things where you can actually log in online on your phone different times during the week. We have these all posted up on our Carrot Bars on the front page of Nutrimedical. So if you go to Nutrimedical and you're looking under the section called Announcements and Notices, the very at top of it says step-by-step process, get paid to save in gold and build a secure financial money-making future. Follow the 10 steps, which of course Michelle put together, and join Nutrimedical Carrot Bars. Now, when you have your own Carrot Bar business, you get your own website, you have your own back office. All these things become available immediately as soon as you get your package and your KYC documents in. And then if you need help, and I tell people, for God's sake, contact us. And when you do have a downline, what's interesting, we only have access to the immediate downline that we sponsor. So we have you have to motivate the people downlining you, because you don't have access to their emails. You have to motivate your downline to say, hey, 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 deep. Those people need to be doing something. You need to motivate them to say, hey, we're here to help you, even though you're way, way deep, because those points accumulate to infinity. And you can only succeed in this business if you have other people succeed. It's like being saved. You only get into heaven if you have other people to get into heaven. I think it's like I call a group ticket. Carrot Bars is a group ticket, just like getting saved is a group ticket. You only get into heaven if you bring a lot of people with you. Mm-hmm. You only get rich or financially secure in Carrot Bars if you help other people avoid disaster and have a second income, all the way from the person that wants an extra $500 to $5,000 a month to the person that's going to really build a business like Nitsa Nako, and she's got a enormous downline, or Dan Geromo before he died. Because remember, now the man was very sick. So even if you're very sick, he was in actually terminal congestive heart failure. He actually built an enormous business because he grasped the necessity of it, and he had compassion, and he had the ability to teach people and motivate them and say, I call him a Carrot Bar evangelist. He's like if you want to call like a St. Paul of Carrot Bars. Mm-hmm. And even though he was sick, he built this enormous business that's going to continue long after he's gone. That's, to me, pretty amazing. But also, it buffers against something. People say, what's your why, Dr. Bill? My why is I don't want people to take the mark of the beast. That's my primary driver. I don't want to see the currency drop where we can't afford to buy groceries, be able to do our radio show, which, by the way, costs quite a bit of money. We're talking about a high, almost 5 figures, but 4 figures plus, just to put the show on. It's not done free. And in fact, a lot of stations want us to pay to be on them, which we can't do. I mean, you got to be kidding. We have our satellite charges, our broadcast charges, everything, our commercial charges. We're doing this because it's a public service. We're doing it because we're patriotic Americans, but we have a freedom of speech here in America that no other country on earth is able to have. Whether we're talking about financial issues, spiritual issues, geopolitical issues, even talking about different groups. Even when I do a balanced talk about Muslims to kind of support and motivate moderate Muslims are getting away from the Hiraj and the Hadith and the evil things about Sharia law and trying to stomp out, and not crazy ways, but stomp out radical Islam, making sure we go and police the imams and the mosques. Well, the same thing financially. We are not going to have a valid and a abundant country that's safe for us and our children and grandchildren to grow up unless we have something like carrot bars, unless we have an economy that's not based on a fractional reserve currency. So one of the first things, for example, Donald Trump says he wants to audit the Fed. Well, that's the first step. He basically is showing signs that he's basically libertarian, which means he wants at least portions of what he wants to do is libertarian, which means audit the Fed, eventually get rid of it, and then coin our own currency and write off the debt. Put up tariffs. Make sure we make deals, not with trade agreements where multiple nations can put the gears to us, but make deals. Well, the same thing goes with you personally. We can't have a strong community, your friends, your neighbors, your city, your village, if your currency is yanked down and becomes worthless or half the value. What is it going to be like if you go to the grocery store and all of a sudden your $4 loaf of bread is $20? What are you going to do when the gasoline price is $200 and even if you carpool, you can't get to work? What are you going to do when they don't have enough money to maintain our military and our military bases start to close all over the world? And the world becomes a very unsafe place because we're not there to police it. Mm-hmm. What do people say, most people don't realize part of the reason why the world hasn't blown up is because America has been vigilant. But America has to be wealthy to be vigilant. Well, if you aren't wealthy enough to take care of your family and motivate your neighbors, friends, and colleagues, and maintain a valid community that actually has resources, like you can't give what you don't have. So if you have more than abundant, you have enough to give to others. That's why it's not the riches that make you turn against God. It's whether or not riches are more important than doing the right thing. We're trying to motivate people so they have enough wealth. They can do the co-pays for their health care. They can repair their home so it doesn't leak. They can maintain a proper police force and military. We can maintain helping other nations to build their economy rather than exporting our economy and destroying it. Well, it comes down to us. We are the fourth arm of government, not the CIA and the NSA, which try to be. We, the public, have delegated authority to these politicians, President, Congress, and Senate. They don't have the authority that comes out of thin air. It comes from us, including the CIA and these other maniacs who think that they can just kind of behind the scenes sneak and manipulate, diabolical playing with the voting and so on. Well, the real issue is if we could get, let's say, in the next 2 years, 1/4 of the U.S. population doing carrot bars, do you think it would matter what they did to the Fed Reserve notes? No. It would. All of a sudden, people would just say, hey, we're not going to do this anymore. We're not going to play with your, monopoly funny money that's now devalued and we can't buy, gasoline or groceries. And in third world countries, this has already happened. We talked to Professor McKinney last fall, and he was quoting, and he moved from one place to another in I think, northern South America. I don't know exactly where he is, but he's now in the Eastern time zone. And he said, a lot of these people were expats from Europe and America, and they were down there and they had auto businesses buying automobiles and reselling to other people, or they had leather goods from Italy and elsewhere. They couldn't even buy base materials to make things like fancy shoes and other things because their own currency became so devalued they couldn't buy it on the open marketplace, things to actually build things or parts for equipment they actually imported or to even maintain a business. So when the economy crashed, basically the dollar got devalued down there, or the currency they had locally in South America, in whatever country they're in. These middle class and upper middle class and small and medium and large businesses, they're gone. They're now history. We're not talking about maybe it's going to be a crash. We just haven't heard the crashing sound in America yet, have we? But the crashing sound is happening everywhere else. I mean, if you go to Russia, you have to spend twice as much to get sausage and borscht. If you go to Europe, the euro has dropped dramatically since what was, say, 2 or 3 years ago. If you go to China, yeah, their economy has grown at 7% because we've dumped all our manufacturing there, but they build 100,000 warehouses to store stuff they can't even ship to us. So the Baltic Dry Index for container ships, they've stopped building container ships there pretty well because they can't maintain the movement of goods to sell to us because we can't buy it anymore. The average person doesn't have the dispensable income. That's why Walmart's closing, Tesco, Target. That's why you see all these specials after Christmas. They just want to continue moving merchandise, even if they sell it at a song. 40% off, 60% off. I think, well, why don't they just pay us to walk it out of the store? And people think, things are going to continue this way. No, they're not. The Queen last year, because she owned the Royal Bank of Scotland, announced that Krampus is coming. Now, not Christmas, Krampus. Krampus is the alternate to Santa Claus. And he gets all the bad little boys and girls. Well, there have been bad queens who owned RBC and did illegal and corrupt things. So now RBC, the Royal Bank of Scotland, which she owns, is one of the biggest banks in the world, and it's going, God. Mm-hmm. And as I say, like in skydiving, it's not the falling that hurts, it's the stopping. Mm-hmm. Don't be there for the stopping. Have an extra safety parachute. Get carrot bars. Let us help you. For God's sake, remember your friends and community, your relatives, your colleagues. Think of them crying when they realize they go to hold up their dollars and it's like sand between their fingers. It goes, I thought I had a savings account. No, you are an unsecured investor in the bank, and they clawed it in. They gave you a haircut. Unfortunately, they put the blade below your chin. That's a low place to put the blade, isn't it? It's called a financial guillotine. How's that? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Take care, everybody.